What we'll do is we'll read questions, and if we find the question is a repeat of a previous question, but you know, a little bit different but similar topic, we'll try and move on to a newer topic. This question is roads in the subdivision, and this is from Margaret Drake. Margaret, are you still here? Oh, there you are. Hi, Margaret. Have you made any progress in getting some gas taxes reassigned to developing roads in the subdivisions on this island?
Short answer is no. We did introduce, as Representative Hanahana has in previous years, a fuel tax revenue bill to try to address this issue. What that is about is the state collects some of our gasoline taxes that gets distributed to the county. But the county cannot use those by law on privately owned roads, such as most of our subdivisions, Paradise Park, Orchid Land, Hawaiian Acres. They can't use those the way the law is constructed right now. So the fuel tax revenue bill would have allowed the county the leeway to spend some of those funds, if it so chooses, on privately owned roads that are used by the public. As you may know, Paradise Park, for example, the roads are private, but the ambulances go down that road, so does the fire truck and the police, and even school buses too. So we have a situation on this island that does not exist on the other islands, and we're trying to address it through that fuel tax revenue. It seemed to me that there were plenty of people pushing against this, including people from our island who didn't want to see it happen, as well as some people from other islands that felt it wasn't fair. And we will try to revise it. We got an opinion from the Attorney General. We'll revise the language of it and try again next year. And I'm sorry to say that we did not make any progress.
Okay, next question is from Larry Gehring. Gehring? Okay. Subject is speed limits. Question: lower the speed limit in Highway 130 Pahol Road, Kahakai to 30 miles per hour and post a radar? Is that your question? Okay. And then it goes on, Highway 130, some more. Extend hours of operation for the parking lane, which is currently used from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And Highway 130, install entry lanes from every street connecting to Highway 130. Good suggestions.
Very good suggestions. Some of that is being done. The entry lanes are gradually being done. Some of the intersections that you've seen have been improved lately. Lowering the speed limit, actually this was, I think, Eileen's idea that we brought to the Department of Transportation. We did suggest that they lower the speed limit on a stretch of Highway 130 from 55 to 45. It's from the Ainaloa to Shower. Basically it's a 3-mile stretch with over 100 entries and exits. We felt that that was just one thing they could do to improve the safety of the most deadly highway in the state. We could do it instantly without spending millions of dollars. And we had a couple different suggestions. This was one that they put through their analysis and decided was a good idea, and they have done that. You can just a couple weeks ago, you can see that. Reduce it to 30, I mean, that would be great. I would certainly have some opposition, but I got even some opposition, of course, on this one, but I did my arithmetic as best I could figure out. It only takes you 20 more seconds to drive 45 miles an hour for this 3-mile stretch. They are working on widening the Keaau to Shower portion of the highway rather soon. You asked about extending the hours. They are going to widen it permanently so that there's 2 lanes going in each direction. I'm hoping that they'll widen it in the Pahoa-bound lane first, because we already have the extra lane in the morning, the one-way. But they do have that on the books as something they hope to do in the next couple of years. We should see some work started on that in the next 6 months. Those are great suggestions. Thank you.
One of the things that has been holding up that shoulder conversion, and June is here and she can speak to the issue, is there's a little remnant parcel that is owned by 5,260 people. The first phase of the subdivision, Paradise Park. And they need to acquire that property. And I know that June, who is president of the board at HPP, has been very helpful in providing them information. And it might end up being a judicial foreclosure. That could speed things up, and then they can get started on that shoulder lane conversion. So I think that's pretty much.
By the way, let me add, that would be crucial because the reason that they want to do the other way first is simply because of this. They feel like this one parcel is going to hang them up so much that they'd rather have a couple of years to work on it. I pleaded with them and saying, you know, don't fix the part that's not broken. We desperately need the other part to be fixed, so please make that a priority. And I understand that, June, you've been helpful to them and helping getting them started on that road, so thank you.
Okay, Blake Watson, are you here? Hi, Blake. Bill 79, are you in support of this bill? And if so, can you help implement programs that might be helpful to transition GMO papaya to non-GMO papaya? Can you meet with us and GMO-free Hawaii Island folk and Margaret Willie?
I would be happy to meet with you guys. I think you're talking about the Hawaii County Council bill that I'm not very well qualified to speak to that specific bill, but I'm virulently anti-GMO in every way that I can be. And in terms of transitioning the papaya farmers to non-GMO papaya, I think that will be a gradual process. I think that if there ever is a labeling bill, that will speed that along because there will be a lot of consumer rejection of it. On the other hand, it's important to me that when we look at the GMO issue, it's the whole big issue, that I would hate to end up with a bill or any way of viewing it that says the papaya farmers are the bad guys and Monsanto doesn't get touched by it. Because papaya farmers are just farmers, and all of them are in my district, you know, and they're just doing the best they can with what they've been given. I think we need to address the bigger problem, which is Monsanto and Syngenta and those organizations. But I would love to meet with your group, and I don't know if Zendo, our council member, has anything he'd like to say about that GMO bill. I'm not sure if you've been involved in that, Zendo. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, we're still going through it. It's basically trying to create that balance, and there's so much concern about the GMO right now. And I'm with you. I'm vehemently opposed to Monsanto, but you know we can't have that every time here. So we just got a new one. We've been in budgets all day, and still going through it. But we're working on it.
I think it's great what the council is looking at. I think what you guys are trying to do is craft a bill that will stand up, you know, that will be legal and enforceable. And if it takes a month or two to do that, God bless you. Take that month or two. Let's do that. It would be a first in the country, I think.
All right. We also had the same question from Lynn, so I think that got answered. Thank you, Lynn. Renee Siracusa has a question. Hawaii Health Systems, any ideas in light of news about Hilo Medical Center's dire financial situation that was in the paper today?
I have to claim ignorance on this subject. I don't know a lot about that. I think, you know, public hospitals lose money, it seems. It's just the nature of the beast. Myself, if I had my druthers, I would be happy to keep pouring money into it and keep it a public hospital that's open and available to us, rather than turn it into something that has to turn a profit or it goes away, because, you know, like, it may never be profitable, you know. So I think we have to fund it. We have to bite the bullet and realize that it costs us money to have public hospitals in rural communities. And I'm sorry that I don't have any particular insight into what they need there, but I hope it's not privatization as the only answer that we look at.
I have a question from Lawrence Brennan. Are you here? Yes. About Hawaiian Paradise Park Public School. Any ideas for a school in HPP with 11,500 residents with 27% under 18? What's the status?
The status is, and I understand you've been working on this in the past too, and I thank you for that. We raised that this year. My good friend John Olson recommended that to me as my first official action, and I brought that up to the Department of Education. They, of course, immediately shot it down, and then we brought it up again as a resolution where the Department of Education came and said, you don't want this resolution, Russell, because if we do this study now, it's going to show that you don't need it, and then it's dead for 10 years. So the resolution didn't go anywhere, but a few weeks later, they did come and talk to us and showed us some graphs and some charts. What they do is they analyze neighboring schools and what their capacities are, whether they're close to capacity or not. Right now, they do not see any justification for building a new public school there. But they do recognize that we're a very fast-growing district. And, you know, looking out 10 years, there probably is a need for a school there. And they promised us they're going to keep an eye on it and look at it very, very closely. By the way, I'll ask your follow-up, but this doesn't prevent us from doing a charter school, perhaps, in Paradise Park, if the energy is there for that.
And just as an aside, the #1 state in the nation for cost of transport for students is Hawaii. So,
And in Paradise,
show you that.
and in Paradise Park, you have kids split up. Some of them go to Keaau, some of them go to Keaau, and some of them go to Pahoa. And of course, those school buses are on our crowded highway, which doesn't work also. And you know, it's the fastest growing subdivision, I think, in the state, and we're going to need a school there. I will keep pushing for it. I think Paradise Park has a unique situation where we have parcels of land that really can't be used for almost anything but. And it's not often that the Department of Education gets offered that, saying, well, here's the land for free. You know, so they see it as something that they need to take seriously. And while those wheels are moving very slowly, I will keep pushing along on it.
This next question is from Sarah Burgess. She just wants you to touch on environmental protection and what's been done.
Gee, that's a big subject, environmental protection. Well, for me, that includes stuff like the Invasive Species Council. You're trying to protect against albizia, fire ants, new invasive species, and also has to do with protecting our reefs and our watersheds. So some of that is being taken very seriously. I'm not sure what aspect of environmental protection you were thinking of, but let me just come out and say it. Environmentalism is my reason for being involved in politics. It's the thing that's closest to my heart. It's the only thing that would make me want to play this game. And so it's a great concern of mine. And I think that we are, making some progress in invasive species. The watershed issues are being taken very seriously in the state right now, which is nice to see. I don't think we're protecting our reefs and our offshore resources very well at all. And I don't know that we're taking care of our water table when we talk about chemical agriculture such as Monsanto. I think that's a serious threat to our water table. Thankfully not on this island, but on the other islands. I think those are serious concerns. And of course, overriding all these other environmental concerns is global warming, which we have to get serious about one of these days. And that's part of the reason why I care a lot about local foods, because I watch us ship product in from the mainland at great carbon expense. And this is sort of my mantra, but it's my point of view from a grocery store owner. I look at all these cardboard boxes that we ship in, container after container full. They're mostly filled with water and air. And I just don't think we need to import that. Now that shipping is expensive and we know about the cost of global warming, I think we ought to start making those things here.
Next question is from Bruce Darney. He already touched on energy and the roundabout, but about propane prices. Propane prices have increased in the last few weeks, and it seems to be directly tied to the closing or the slowing down of the Tesoro plant on Oahu.
Well, I appreciate the question, Bruce. I don't have the answer to that. I know they've just formed a task force. What are we going to do about the refinery closing? And some people feel the writing is on the wall that the other refinery, I guess it's Chevron refinery, will also close now due to the economics of the world oil situation. I don't have the answer for that. I'm open to ideas. If you have answers or suggestions, I'm open to addressing them and trying to put them forward. I do not know what the answer for that situation is.
But we have sent a letter to DBET to ask them if there's any connection and what we can report back to you. And for everyone else out there, if you ever have a question for us that we can't answer or needs research, we'll try to point you in the best direction, or try to send a letter or communicate with the agency that can get you that answer.
And by the way, on that subject, I want to say that some of my staff is working year-round, even though the legislative session is only 4 months of the year. Deva and our legislative assistant, Trina Ishii, are in the office in Honolulu, which addresses is on the newsletters. They're there 12 months of the year, and they're there as a great resource. That they have all the phone numbers and all the contact people, and they're sort of like a little nonprofit agency. They're there to work for you, and please make use of us. Okay.
And one more thing, we get a lot of calls asking about where his office is in the district. And we have to tell people, I'm sorry, but he doesn't have an office there. But if you ever really need to meet with the senator, the best way is to call or to email our office, and we can set up an appointment with you and get you in touch with the senator.
Thank you.
I have all my friends.
Well, let me take my glasses off then.
Now. Okay, and the subject is Roger Christy. Roger Christy is not a danger to society. It is the judge and the federal system that is keeping Roger Christy in prison. That is a danger to society. Is Peaceful Sky still alive, or did the voice of the people, has the voice of the people been violated? How can you introduce your bill to help free Roger Christy without Clayton He knocking it down? Clayton He is the senator who's head of the Judiciary Committee.
And thank you for taking my phone call and me not mentioning the word Nazi in the equation there, Senator.
I appreciate that. You know, I put forward a resolution expressing concern about Roger Christy's situation. I work in the state legislature. We have no jurisdiction whatsoever over the federal system that is holding Roger Christy. It was just if it had survived an expression of concern. That bill did die in Senator He's committee. It seemed important to me at the time to not focus on Senator He or the Judiciary Committee or my resolution, because those are all distractions. What's important is what's going on with Roger. He's sitting in federal prison, and what happens in the Senate, the little petty infighting in the Senate, is quite irrelevant to what really happens to Roger. I fought really hard to try to get people, don't focus on Senator He, don't focus on my resolution. I mean, once it died, let's keep the focus on Roger Christy and the judge and the prosecutor in that case. So I don't know what's happening at the Peaceful Sky Alliance. I mean, it's clear that in this island, we have had a strong voter expression of, you know, that we don't want to have this kind of enforcement. But this is a federal detention situation that we don't have any jurisdiction on. All I can do, or that I know you can do, is to make noise and bring it to the light of day and let everybody be aware that he's being held for 3 years while, yes, I mean, much more violent and dangerous people are released every day. Roger is obviously not a danger to the community. It's obvious to anyone who has ever met him. It was reinforced to me greatly after my visit to him, because he's not only a non-violent person, but he's almost saintly in his dedication to his mission. And I actually really believe that he's in prison now because the feds kind of painted themselves in a corner. I don't think they expected Roger to say no to plea bargain after plea bargain. They kept piling it on, and everybody else gives in and says, okay, I'll take the plea bargain. I don't think they've ever met anybody like Roger before who believes so strongly in what he's got to say that he'd rather stay in prison and go to trial than take a plea bargain and go back out to the light of day. I don't think anyone ever intended this situation. It's got to do with the moral strength of character that Roger Christy has. And I think all we can do, we can write to our U.S. senators, our U.S. reps, or the judge or prosecutor in that case. I don't know where else we can put any attention, except maybe letters to the editor and stuff. All right, I'm going to briefly just open up to a couple more questions.
Well, now, there is one area where you might be able to law, and that is if you get the Attorney General to petition to change the scheduling of marijuana. And I know
Yes.
that would be time consuming, but that's really the only way to get it changed because we've tried all these other methods. And I know that's not going to help Roger immediately, but it'll help a lot of other people because all the laws are based on marijuana being Schedule 1, and the state can't meet that definition. It has to be an Attorney General, and it has to be one of the states, and Hawaii could lead in that way if you can get the Attorney General to do it.
Okay, I did not know about that. Brent?
So I've been trading emails with Roger, and he asked me to rebuild the Peaceful Skies website. So we'll have that back up in a week or so.
Thank you. Let's get back on track.
Thank you. Oh, no, here's Arthur. Arthur Barati. Okay, Arthur is asking about the intersection at Longs in Pahoa. Too many accidents. Many of us, feel neglected. This intersection needs a traffic light yesterday. They say Puna is fastest growing area. Highway 130 is super dangerous. You're right about that.
Well, that is where they're putting the very first improvement that we're going to see is the roundabout that's going to go at almost at that intersection. I think that intersection will still exist after the roundabout.
Yeah, and just some background for those in the room that understand this. The CDP, the Puna Development Plan, had identified that intersection, that of Kahakai and Highway 130, as the place they wanted to see a roundabout. When Department of Transportation started designing a roundabout, they did it under a federal program that has different oversight and blah, blah, blah. They looked at the number of accidents that occurred at the intersection, and that's how they made their choice. And unfortunately, the intersection of Old Government Road and 130 trumped the intersection of Kahakai by 4 accidents. They're both very, very dangerous intersections. So that's why the roundabout is occurring there. But I think we have at least gotten the ear of, or the senator with his efforts to get them to listen, has gotten them to think about integrating their planning efforts with our local planning efforts, which is really important. And I see that we're making some progress in affecting the design, as you can see from the new roundabout design. And they are holding off because they know that another development is coming in soon, and that's the one by Bryson. And so they are delaying completing the roundabout design until his drawings are on the table. And so I think we're at least getting listened to about considering what we're doing here in a local planning process.
I think what's on the books for that intersection is a street light. Am I correct? That's the next.
I believe so.
They're hoping to do a street light at that intersection in probably a couple of years from now.
Russell?
Yeah, we didn't like the roundabout going where it is. That wasn't where what we would have done or where we would have done it first, but we weren't ever offered that choice, really. Yes,
Russell, on
the gentleman in the back there. Yeah.
on Government Road, that's a key intersection right now from Long. When Bryson's is built, that will be a cross street.
That's correct, Richard.
And that's where they're planning to put a traffic light there for that reason.
Of course, Senator will have to put it in his CIP budget next year before that traffic light goes in.
Well,
Yes, you will. They gotta have money. And so, but just so you know, in his CIP, and I believe you mentioned this earlier, there is going to be a traffic light at the intersection of Post Office and 130. And that's affected by costs and other traffic. So that is coming soon. Okay, on to a different subject, and one close to my heart, pet overpopulation. And we have a real problem, as we all know. Is there any effort or bills that address the big issue of the pet overpopulation on the island?
there were a couple of bills this year that were called the puppy mill bill. I mean, that would have outlawed breeders that maintained more than 10 breeding animals on a home basis. Faye, do you know what happened with that? It didn't go through, did it?
No.
It did not pass. So nothing succeeded this year. There is some concern about that. Most of this concern arose after the big puppy mill that was discovered with hundreds of dogs in terrible conditions on Oahu. I don't think anything passed this year that relates to it. I mean, I share your concern. I think it's a complicated issue, and we'll keep trying to work on it, but I don't have any great answer for you of any progress that's been made. Sorry.
Andy Rosanoff asking, what happened to the College of Pharmacy building? Who wants it not to be built? It may not be in our district, but it affects us. Thank you, Andy.
Yes, I was strongly in support of the College of Pharmacy. I think it's a very exciting thing. For those who don't know, we do have a College of Pharmacy here at UH Hilo. It's the only one in the Pacific region, I believe. And their continued accreditation depends on them getting a facility. They have designed a beautiful new $30 million building that would be a great addition to Hilo, really. This year, you know, from the legislature's point of view, we're just coming out of the recession and money was tight. And I believe that it was just on the chopping block for things that both money committees felt that we couldn't afford. Now, I mean, I don't agree with this. I think it was worth the money. We did spend $150 million for a high school somewhere. We did spend $90 million for a courthouse in Kona. So money gets spent, and hundreds of million dollars for harbor and airports improvements. So lots of money got spent this year, but not so much in Hilo or Puna, and except there's harbor and airport improvements that were significant. But it was a disappointment to me. I mean, myself and Senator Keaau, whose pet project this is, we strongly support this pharmacy building. All the Big Island legislators, of course, supported it. But we couldn't get the chairs of the money committees to agree that this was enough of a priority to be aligned. I do believe that the accreditation process is giving them, you know, just putting them on probation, basically, and all we can do is try next year to make it happen. I think we will, because it was right on the edge this year. People realized it was needed. It was a reasonable project. It's a good project. It's good for the economy of the state. And I hope we'll get that money next year. I feel like the losing sports team every time I say, wait till next year, you know. But that's what you have to say sometimes.
We have a question about clean elections, and this is from Jennifer Robles. And it's, what will be the next steps for Hawaii's clean elections program, and how can we be more supportive?
Well, as you know, Ms. Ruggles, Corey Payne of the Voter Own Hawaii is one of the lead advocates for this, and I think that the bill that he introduced and shepherded through the legislature had a lot of support, but it needs a funding mechanism now, because it was going to be a big enough deal that it needs to dip into the general fund. The Campaign Spending Commission does not have the money in and of itself to do this. So we need to convince enough people that it is worth money to make it go forward. I believe, as Corey says, Corey Payne of Voter on Hawaii, this is the reform that makes all other reforms possible. And I think that that's very true. My greatest frustration in the legislature was realizing that some folks aren't working for the public good. Some folks are working for specific corporations. And this is the mechanism to change that. You know, our democracy was not supposed to be this way, and we need to reclaim it. I don't know anything beyond public outcry and constantly bringing this issue into the papers and letters to the editor and letters to the legislators. I think the key legislators were the chairs of the money committees and the judiciary committees on both sides that need to understand that there's enough public support for it to be worth a couple of $1 million next year.
Follow-up?
Well,
Is there any way of finding out who those legislators are who are working for corporations?
I'll tell you.
Great, yeah. It'd be great to have a list. We get
campaign against it.
I'm going to tell you somewhat more privately, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be good. I just want to move on with some of the questions because we're running out of time here, and if we don't get to your question, staff will try and follow up. There was a question about the raw milk bill and the sustainable living bill, and I think Senator is committed to introducing both again next year. So there was good progress on the sustainable living bill. I think it made it through the House, right, Faye? Yeah, okay. So that should definitely be reintroduced.
Yeah, the sustainable living bill was an effort to have a mechanism whereby people who live in non-standard housing, non-standard buildings, could be made legal. And the bill that was drafted that we had this year came from a New Mexico bill where they've been successful with it. And it has to do with people on large parcels of land that, in many cases, are alternative communities. And they want to experiment with different building methods, farming methods, etc. And so this would provide a mechanism that they can apply for an exemption to county zoning laws. And, you know, it came down to, I mean, I did, at the last committee that it went to, BJ Leadhead Todd, if I'm saying her name correctly, was there expressing concerns on behalf of the planning department, but she also committed to sitting down with me and Graham Ellis, who's one of the big advocates for this, during this interim, and see if we can't work out the objections. And again, this is that power to convene. It's one thing to run a bill up the flagpole, see it get shot down, but the next step is, let's work with the people who shot it down, and let's get more support, and if we can get people like BJ to have her input also, and we will try to take it forward. And the other one was
The raw milk bill didn't really.
the raw milk didn't go anywhere at all. I need to convince the people in consumer protection, I think, that, you know, there are 6 states that allow raw milk directly sold from farms, and another 6 states that allow it for retail sale. And to me, it's not just about raw milk, but it's about the ability to make cheese, to make butter, to make yogurt. Yogurt is this huge category of products, and you can't make it. I mean, yogurt is spoiled milk. It's a very low-tech product, you know. It's really good for you, and people spend millions on it. But in Hawaii, you can't make yogurt unless you have a $2 million pasteurization machine. And I don't think that's necessary, and I would like to push harder on it. But I didn't have any support for it at all at this point.
And that was the first bill that Senator had written was the raw milk bill.
Which Eileen cleverly named the cottage cheese bill.
Yeah, that was the cottage cheese
For
bill.
cottage industry cheese bill.
But yeah, it's
Even with that clever name, it did not.
you gotta have fun
Somehow
with
it
this
didn't
process because it's pretty nasty. Okay. This should be our last question for the night. We'll try and get back to the folks that had other questions. And this is from Steve Hirakami, and it's about the private partnerships on public school lands. Being that the DOE can magically absorb money from leases into the bureaucracy, does the money generated from these projects have a specific target going directly to impact students?
I'm not 100% sure about my answer here, but I think that a certain portion of that money has to get spent on that school that's involved in benefiting them. And then I don't know if it's a 50-50 split. If anybody knows, please correct. What's that?
It's a percentage.
Some kind of percent. So some of it stays in that school, some of it goes into the Board of Education in general. But yes, I mean, I hope it doesn't get corrupted along the way, but the intention is to help with facilities and educational materials. You know, the ideal of this would be something like a computer company or a software company might set up in part of the schoolyard and have software computer programs that benefit the kids in that school. You know, that would be one example of it. We'll see. What's good about this is that it's going to be highly vetted. There's going to be five projects submitted. They're going to look closely at it. They're going to have public meetings in the neighborhoods that are being considered. and they'll pick the ones that are most supportive of it that make the most sense.
So we have a lot of questions, and we'll try to get back to all of you about your specific questions. I just want to touch on two things that have to do with questions. And one is about if people weren't here and they wanted to see it, where will this meeting be located? And Occupy Hilo Media, Carrie, has been kind enough to tape this, and it will be on their website, and we'll also have a link to it, and it'll be on YouTube. And at our website and on our Facebook.
Can you tell them where our website is, please?
Yes, we have our website through the state capitol website. Senator has a senatorial website with all of his legislation. Also at russellruderman.com. You can also find all the other information. He also is on Facebook and YouTube, so you can find him there. The other one is about our letter electronically. We send out an email, and during the session we try to do it every month. Now that we're in interim, it's going to be a little less than that, but we're going to try to do it quarterly. If you'd like to be on that list, please tell Keaau to just mark your name, and we'll make sure that you're on that list.
Thank you. And I do want to say, as someone was alluding to earlier, I'm sorry, I forgot. Oh, Lori Doctor was saying, you know, there's a wonderful state legislature website at, what is it, capital.hawaii.gov? Capital.hawaii.gov, capital with an O. That for all the things that people might complain about, this or that about government, Hawaii state government has an excellent website that gives you access to every committee. You can track every bill by subject matter. You can see where it's going and what's happening to it. We also have something called the Public Access Room, which is a branch of the state legislature. I think we're the only state in the country that has this facility. They're a group of very educated people, sort of like librarians for the legislature, and they will help you by phone, by email, or by walking in. They'll help you get access to whoever it is. So you can painlessly and without cost write any of your legislators, track any bill, and also get a lot of other information, including, you know, each senator and representative has a little subpage from this website. You can go there, click on senators, click on Ruderman or Puna, and you'll see my website there. The same thing's true for everybody there. It's a wonderful resource, and it's free. And this is part of what we hope to open up with the video conferencing. But I encourage you to use it, and I encourage you to use our office as a resource. As I mentioned, we're 12 months a year there. We have a very educated, knowledgeable, and involved staff who is just waiting for your call. And I really want to thank everybody for coming tonight. It's fantastic to see such participation, such a turnout. If I didn't get to your question, please forgive me. You can contact us. We'll try to follow up through the 3x5 cards, but we're available for these questions anytime, okay? Thank you very much for coming.
I printed out the bill that was going through last year, 2504, and I gave it to it went through a couple of readings, and it went through the House, and then it stopped because they ran out of time, I guess.
Yeah, no, they just decided to do they did the very
They didn't have any no's, though. I mean, it was
no, and actually there was a couple of those so it's going to happen sometimes. And because that's what champions is for.
yeah, because it was 2 readings in the Senate, and then 1 in the House. And
So, you know, that's where you